everyone. This is Julie again, the Cancer Dietitian. If you're not familiar with me, I'm a bona fide expert in oncology nutrition. Not only am I a registered dietitian, which is a credentialed profession, by the way, I am a licensed dietitian nutritionist in the state of North Carolina, and I've been a board-certified specialist in oncology nutrition for over 10 years. I'm the creator of CancerDietitian.com and the wellness director at Cancer Services in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The Cancer Dietitian Podcast is for anyone who has faced a cancer diagnosis or provides care for someone who has. So by my calculation and experience, that's basically everyone. Today's episode, we are going to talk about all things alkaline diet. And the reason we're covering this is because in my first few podcasts, I wanted to go ahead and discuss the top cancer nutrition myths that I hear from my patients. So in episode 1, we covered does sugar feed cancer? In episode 2, we covered soy, especially as it relates to breast cancer. And today in episode 3, we are going to talk about alkaline, the alkaline diet, whether you should drink alkaline water, and spoiler alert, why it's not good science to think that you can alter your body pH or that is even a healthy thing to do. The talk around town is that cancer thrives in an acidic environment and that by drinking alkaline water, you can somehow starve the cancer cells. Unfortunately, it's not that simple to just get rid of cancer. I wish it was, honestly. I wish that was the answer that I could give my patients. It's a nice thought though, right? If all we had to do to kill cancer was open up a bottle of alkaline water and start drinking it, then hey. But what does the actual evidence say? That's what I'm going to talk about today. And I do have a practice of giving the bottom line right up front on my podcast. And that's because I know that we're all strapped for time. Sometimes you just want the answer so you can move on. Totally support that approach. I do not think it should require a nutrition degree to figure out what to eat. So that's where I'm going to start. And then we'll go into more detail later in the podcast. So here we are with myth number 3, that acidic diets cause cancer. So the fact is that there is no scientific consensus proving that your diet or what you eat can manipulate your whole body pH or that actually has any impact on cancer. So the idea that alkaline water will improve your health takes this ridiculous myth even a step further. Patients are sold alkaline water. I've had clients ask me this at classes. They're sold it with the claim that it's healthier than regular tap water. Now, if you've been drinking alkaline water, you don't have to worry. You're not doing your body any harm. You're wasting your money, but that's about it. However, good old tap water is going to suit your body just fine and keep money in your pocket. So the bottom line on this topic is that the logic behind the alkaline diet is faulty. There is no evidence or lacking evidence regarding science to even support the faulty logic. And then on top of that, though, is the foods that the alkaline diet promotes, I can't really argue with. So that's kind of where I fall. And then I think this is hilarious because I saw this, I don't know, someone shared it on Instagram or Twitter, but the nutrition doc is his name on Twitter. He pointed out that the only ways to make your body alkaline are, number 1, to hyperventilate, and number 2, to vomit a lot. And if you're not sure why that would make your body alkaline, you should definitely keep listening so that you can understand how our body works when it comes to blood pH, which is what we refer to when we talk about pH of the body as a general rule. So let's talk about what the alkaline diet really is. You may have heard of it because celebrities seem to be promoting it. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think she promotes it. And FYI, when in doubt, never, ever, ever listen to celebrities for diet advice. You know, celebrities are usually actors and models. And so if you want to listen to them for advice on how to pretend to be someone else, I think that's great. If you want to listen to them for fashion advice, you know, sometimes questionable in my opinion, but we'll say that's their expertise. It is not their expertise to give diet advice. Okay, so pretty much if they say it, don't believe it. So I think the alkaline diet becoming more popular or becoming popular at all is a result of celebrity culture. There's a lot of claims when it comes to using diet to control pH of your body. Some people claim an alkaline diet aids in weight loss, controls inflammation, cures cancer. I've seen one website claim that you can say goodbye to low energy, poor digestion, extra pounds, aches and pains, and disease, and say hello to renewed vigor, mental clarity, better overall health, and a lean, trim body. And all you have to do is keep the pH of your body in balance. And I'm thinking, this is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, if one thing can do all of that, then that's amazing. And you know it's not true. There are a couple of studies that show acidic environment promotes growth of cancer cells. And so the theory is that a diet high in alkaline foods and low in acidic foods would raise the body's pH level and help cure cancer. However, what's not explained when proponents make claims about the alkaline diet is that those studies were actually done in cancer cells that were in vitro, which means in a petri dish or in a lab. They weren't done in cancer cells in a human body. And so you cannot even think that that's the same thing, because the way tumors behave in the human body is completely different from the way an individual cancer cell would behave in a petri dish in a lab. So we also don't know if the acidic environment that we see the cancer growing in is caused by the cancer itself, or if the environment promotes growth of the cancer. So when someone says, oh, well, the acidic environment around cancer promotes growth, it might be acidic around the cancer because the cancer is causing it to be that way. When it comes to the alkaline diet, it's also really hard to get details as to what proponents say the diet is. But even though there's not clear consensus, I think in general, what they're stating the optimal ratio is 80% quote, alkaline forming foods and 20%, quote, acid forming foods. Again, there's no scientific basis for the categories of these foods. But proponents of the diet state that meat, poultry, fish, dairy products, caffeine, sugar, and salt are the most acid forming foods. So they would be in the what you should only eat 20% of. And then that grains are slightly acid forming, legumes are slightly acid forming, legumes are beans, and that fruits and vegetables are the most alkaline forming. So they obviously encourage a lot more fruits and vegetables, medium amount of grains and beans, and then limiting those other, quote, alkaline or acid-forming foods. So proponents of the alkaline diet believe that most cancers are caused by an acidic environment in the body, and the primary cause of the presumed acidosis is because of acid-forming foods, which, again, I don't totally understand where they even get this information from. But anyway, that's what they say. And the truth is that the Western diet is characterized by a high intake of animal products and refined carbohydrates. You know, the typical Western American doesn't eat enough fruits and vegetables, and therefore the typical Western diet is considered to be acid forming by these people. So in contrast, the alkaline diet that they promote is designed to provide more alkaline ions after digestion. It's rich in fruits and vegetables, limited amount of protein, decreases acid load, and helps reduce strain on acid detoxification systems. So that's what they say. So next, I'm going to talk about what pH is, especially as it relates to the human body. So if you don't remember, way back in science class, we measure acids on a scale known as the pH scale that goes from 0 to 14. An acid of 0 is the very most acidic, 7 is neutral, right in the middle, and 14 is the most alkaline or basic of an acid, basically a non-acid. So that's what you want to remember. It goes from 0 to 14, and 7 is neutral, right in the middle. Our bodies maintain a blood pH of right around 7.4. So it's pretty much neutral, although, slightly alkaline. And any change in your body's pH that's significant would result to a trip to the emergency room and quite possibly a lengthy hospital stay. And if it really is changed a lot, it would cause you to die. So to keep us out of harm's way, of course, our bodies are really good at maintaining a safe pH. Like whatever it takes, our body is going to maintain our blood pH of 7.4. And the truth is, our stomach acid is really strong. The reason is it has to help digest food. It's the first place that the food goes once it enters our mouth and we swallow it, is through the esophagus, ends up in the stomach. The stomach has to, first of all, make sure that none of the harmful bacteria can live. And second of all, it really starts the digestion process. So it denatures proteins. So if you eat meat or plant proteins, it's going to start breaking those down so that we can digest and absorb them in the intestines. So our stomach acid must be really strong. If you're not familiar with it, the pH of stomach acid generally ranges between 1 and 3. So that is the category, basically, same category as battery acid. So to think that you could somehow take a food item, put it on your stomach, which has a pH of 1 to 3, or basically battery acid pH, and think that somehow, that's going to have a significant effect on your blood pH, to me, it seems a little ridiculous. But, what happens is after it goes through your stomach, then your food actually ends up in your small intestine. The small intestine has a very high pH to help digest. So it's interesting that different parts of the body have completely different pH regulation. However, when it comes to our blood, it's very tightly regulated right around 7.4. And I think we have to remember our bodies are complex. They're smart. This is how we're designed to digest and absorb food. We need our stomach to be really acidic. In fact, if you were to put a drop of stomach acid on a piece of wood, it would eat right through it. It is that strong. I had a terrier who lived till he was 15, and he would eat all kinds of things, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with dogs eating things. So my dog one time ate like a squeaky ball. It was just a little ball. It was about the size of a ping pong ball, but it was squishy. And it was his best friend, and he, had all kinds of fun with it. And all of a sudden one day he swallowed it. And I was like, where did that ball go? And I'm trying to get it out of him. And, we went to the doctor and they tried to get him to throw it up, and they tried to stick this thing down his throat to try to grab it, and they couldn't get it. So eventually we actually had to have his stomach cut open so they could take this ball out of it. And it was in there for probably a month. When they took that ball out of his stomach, it was a different color and it was rock hard. No more squishy ball. So that, to me, is just a great example as to how strong the acid is in our stomach. So when we think about trying to alter the pH, you'd have to have a pretty significant amount of alkaline food to change the pH even just of your stomach. And that's the first place the food goes before it even ever gets anywhere close to being absorbed into your blood. So it does start the digestive process, kills any harmful bacteria. Even if people have difficulty with foods that have a higher acid content, like citric fruits, tomatoes, because of heartburn or indigestion, it's not often the foods that are the problem per se, because they're not nearly as strong as the stomach acid. But it's usually because the lining of the stomach has somehow been damaged, and therefore the acidity is bothering it. So obviously the systems don't always work perfect. Some people have too much stomach acid, so they have to take acid reducers. Sometimes the cells in the stomach can't keep up with protecting the lining of the stomach from that acid, and so the lining can be damaged, which can sometimes lead to gastric ulcers. So certainly, there's things that go on an individual basis, but that's how our bodies are designed. So after the food leaves the stomach, it moves into the small intestine, which is a very alkaline environment, as I mentioned, which this assists in further digestion of the food to get it ready to be absorbed into the blood as individual nutrients. This is how our body digests and absorbs nutrients. So we eat it as food. We break it down. Let's say you eat a carrot with a potato and a piece of chicken. You have beta carotene, you have vitamin C, you have fiber, you have vitamin B, you have protein, you have all these, healthy carbohydrates, more fiber from the potato, potassium, magnesium. You have all these nutrients going into your stomach, mixing up, being broken down into individual nutrients, released into your small intestine. That high pH of the small intestine helps to further break it down so that our bodies can absorb each nutrient one at a time into the blood, and then the blood delivers this nutrition, these nutrients all over our body wherever it's needed. Which brings us back to the discussion about pH of our blood. So when someone claims that an alkaline diet is needed to help put your body at optimal pH, my question when somebody says this is, what pH are you talking about? Are you talking about pH of the blood? Are you talking about pH of the stomach? Are you talking about pH of the small intestines? Are you talking about pH of the urine? For the most part, we're really talking about, when you talk about pH of your body, it's probably the blood that most of us would say. That's what I'm talking about, because the blood is delivering nutrients. It's delivering all kinds of things around the body, hormones, enzymes. It is sort of the highway that our body uses to get things around where they need to go. All right, so how do our bodies keep our blood pH stable? One of two ways, or both ways actually. One way is via the kidneys. So our kidneys remove acid from our bodies and send it to the bladder, where it's then eliminated by urine. And then what you also might not realize is that our lungs are working to help our bodies maintain a normal pH. Our cells produce carbon dioxide continually. The lungs work to remove the carbon dioxide, which is an acid. So if you've never noticed that you breathe heavier during a workout, that's because your lungs are working harder to remove the extra carbon dioxide that your cells are producing so that your blood can maintain that 7.4 pH. That's why those two things can alter your pH significantly, which is hyperventilating, because then you would be getting rid of too much acid. And then if you have some kind of kidney problems, that would alter your blood pH. Or if you vomit a lot, that's going to change the pH only because you're getting rid of the stomach acid. It would take a lot of vomiting to make a difference. That's what's most important in understanding this whole discussion, is how pH works in our body. So what does the research say? Currently, large, well-designed clinical trials on the effectiveness of the alkaline diet for general health are lacking. Okay, so that's just scientific jargon for saying there's no data to show the alkaline diet promotes health. Blood pH is regulated to stay within that narrow range of 7.35 to 7.45, making it slightly alkaline no matter what. So proponents of the alkaline diet assume it will raise blood pH and that its effects can be assessed by monitoring your urine pH. One clinical trial in healthy adults that compared an alkaline diet to an acid-forming diet, supposedly acid-forming diet, and they measured urine pH. And so they did see a slight increase. Systemic pH had a significant increase of 0.014 units, indicating that urine pH may be a valid indicator of systemic pH, but we really don't know because it was one study and it was small, not that many people involved. And so we need to see more in order to even know if urine pH is a valid indicator of systemic pH. And that doesn't even answer the question as to whether you can even have better health because your systemic pH is slightly changed. Okay, so then when it comes to research on dietary acid load and cancer specifically, only 2 studies have been done. They're not the best study designs. One was a prospective cohort study, and it examined the association between bladder cancer risk and urine pH in 27,000 male smokers enrolled in a cancer prevention study. And the risk for developing bladder cancer was not significantly associated with urine pH. So then the second study was another small study, looked at using an alkaline diet in 11 advanced or recurrent non-small cell lung cancer patients who were receiving treatment. But there wasn't actually a control group in this study, so you can't really interpret that because you need to have a control to compare the outcomes. Those are the studies that have been done so far. They're really small. They don't have clear conclusions, but they are there. So in terms of the bottom line for the alkaline diet, while the biochemical explanation from proponents of the diet is definitely flawed, what I say is if a patient wants to try the alkaline diet, they might find improvement in their nutrient intake, just depending on what their current diet already is. But because the alkaline diet does emphasize more fruits and vegetables, reducing intake of processed foods. So I can't argue with that, right? Of course, that's what I talk about all the time. Eat more fruits and vegetables. If you have meat, have small portions, have plant proteins on a regular basis, eat whole grains, all those things would fit in with the alkaline diet. So I can't argue with the actual foods that they recommend. However, they do recommend limiting protein-rich foods such as meat, poultry, fish, and dairy products. And when you do that, especially during treatment, when your protein needs are higher, you just need to be really cautious and make sure you're still meeting your body's needs. And patients should also be discouraged from purchasing any products that claim to alter the body's pH, such as alkaline water, because that's flat out not true. Despite the faulty basis for the claims around the alkaline diet, I can't argue that it's pretty close to what we oncology dietitians already recommend for cancer patients and survivors. So what I say is, well, the claims they're making aren't true, but the foods they're actually recommending that you eat, I can't really argue with, as long as you're extra cautious. So we do need to be careful to be aware of any risks for following the eating pattern. So I said before, they recommend 80% of the diet consists of alkaline foods, those fruits and vegetables, some legumes, and then limiting acid-forming foods to less than 20% of calories. So that's the meats, the dairy products, wheat, coffee, sugar, alcohol. The things that you might want to consider, you might need a B12 supplement. You need to emphasize foods that are fortified with vitamin D, because if you're not consuming those dairy products or some of the fish or other places you get vitamin D, you might need to pay more attention to that. You need to emphasize the calcium-rich vegetables, so leafy greens, nuts, seeds, sardines. Emphasize B12 rich foods, which is going to be fortified foods if you're really cutting back on the animal products in your diet. Emphasize zinc rich foods, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, and then recommend foods that are high in iron, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. As an oncology dietitian, I'm looking at this list of what we're emphasizing, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want everyone to do that all the time. Do you have to follow the alkaline diet to do that? No, I think there's a lot of really great eating patterns that have good data showing that they are beneficial to the general health. To me, alkaline diet is not the first one I would go to. So I like the DASH diet, the Mediterranean diet, Dr. Weil's anti-inflammatory diet, I think is a pretty good guide. The USDA My Plate. The American Institute for Cancer Research has a New American Plate guide. I think all of those are very evidence-based, have a lot more data behind them, and are less restrictive than the alkaline diet. So there you have it. You've got all the info you need regarding the alkaline diet. I say the claims aren't true, but the foods they recommend are pretty good for you. And don't waste your hard-earned cash on any alkaline water. Take some Tums if you really need more alkalinity in your stomach. Thanks for listening today. I would love to hear your feedback or suggestions for future topics. Next time, I am planning to talk about pesticides, organic food, GMOs. So that's a big one. You can always find me at cancerdietitian.com and on social media. I'm at Cancer Dietitian on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Share this episode with your friends and encourage them to subscribe to the Cancer Dietitian Podcast on their favorite podcast app. Thanks and see you later.